What's up, fellow adult collectors? Welcome to Civilian Collectibles. Today, I'm continuing my series of top 10 action figures from 2010 to 2019. This time, I'm focused on DC Collectibles. The DC Collectibles brand was previously known as DC Direct up until 2012. Since a lot of things about the two labels did carry over from one to the next, I will have one figure from DC Direct in this list. Those who have been following my channel for a while know that most of my collection consists of items from live-action properties. So, the entirety of this list will be based on DC TV licenses. However, if this is your first time seeing my channel, hi, my name is Seville, and here I like to discuss action figures and other collectibles based on my favorite movies, TV shows, and video games. If you like what you see here, be sure to give me a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. With all that said, let's get into my top 10 DC Collectibles action figures from 2010 to 2019. Starting my list off at number 10 is Hawkgirl from Legends of Tomorrow. Technically, the character got her start on The Flash, but really her time on that show was just used as a way to give her a backstory before Legends began. The wings on this figure are both my favorite thing about it and my biggest gripe, all at the same time. They're detailed very, very well, and they're even articulated in 3 separate points, but they're so heavy that the point where they plug into her back isn't strong enough to hold them in a desired pose for very long. If the wings had worked better, she would have been much higher up my list. Number 9 kinda suffers from a similar problem, that being the Flash himself. The figure looks fantastic. All the paint and detail is exactly how it should be, but it's too hard to keep him in a running pose, and that's kinda how you always want the Flash to be. If his feet and ankles had been articulated just a little bit differently, this would look so much better. However, the figure's accuracy to the show still gives it a place on this list. Coming in at number 8 is Laurel Lance as the Black Canary. The sculpt of the primary body, the paint, and all the details on this figure are astounding. Laurel's suit on the show was a whole lot of leather, pads, buckles, zippers, and it's all captured nearly perfectly on this figure. Every zipper, button, belt loop, and buckle are sculpted and painted very, very neatly. Coming in at number 7 is the Martian Manhunter from Supergirl. Granted, the Supergirl version of Martian Manhunter hasn't been very comics accurate, but it's gotten better over time, and I do find myself enjoying this version of the character. The costume does still maintain the signature red X on the front, as well as the blue cape. Overall, I do think this is one of the best Martian Manhunter figures available. Coming in at number 6 is another character that had a lot of liberties taken, Ray Palmer as the Atom. Ray got his start on Arrow, but eventually became a very prominent part of Legends of Tomorrow. However, there were times when the show's interpretation of the character had a little more in common with Iron Man than it did with the Atom. The design and functionality of the suit seemed to be a bit more inspired by the former rather than the latter. All that aside though, much like the Black Canary figure, this figure has a lot of very small, minute details that were painted and sculpted very, very nicely. And now, starting off my top 5 is Supergirl. Another great example of the attention to detail DC Collectibles had with the DC TV figures. Each part of the figure represents different fabrics, all have different textures, making it all the more authentic to the interpretation of the character. And while the level of articulation isn't quite up to par with my preferences, it's still good enough to land some of her most iconic poses. Coming in at number 4 is Deathstroke. This is absolutely my favorite Deathstroke figure of all time. Once again, the attention to detail is incredible. I love how all of his gear is properly placed throughout the figure. All of his weapons do have their proper holsters and can be displayed in a variety of ways. It's also one of the most well-balanced DC figures in my collection. Next up, coming in at number 3, is Laurel Lance as the White Canary. This was one of the first figures I ever reviewed on this channel. I can still say today what I said back then. This White Canary figure has one of the best paint jobs I have ever seen. The various white and gray tones of the suit just look absolutely awesome. Coming in at number 2 is my one and only DC Direct figure on this list. Clark Kent from Smallville, based on his appearance during Season 10. As a precursor to actually donning the Superman suit, he wore a red leather jacket as the Blur. Since the articulation on this figure was quite limited, it's one of the few items I actually still keep displayed in the original package. It helps that the package itself is made pretty neat and it's pretty easy to keep tucked away on a shelf. Along with Smallville, DC TV would not be where it is today without my number one, Green Arrow. This is the Season 4 version of his suit, which in my opinion is the most comic book accurate version of his suit, and one of the best looking suit on any of the shows. As of right now, I am seriously looking forward to getting the McFarlane Toys version of Green Arrow so I can compare these two figures and see which one really is the better of them. At the current juncture though, it is going to be pretty tough to beat the DC Collectibles Green Arrow. So there you have it, my top 10 DC Collectibles figures from 2010 to 2019. Do you agree with any or all of my list? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching, and if you like this video,
get over here!
And subscribe to Civilian Collectibles.